totally booked.
Rock and roll!
Well, I think I'll leave you to your reading.
Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll.
Rock and roller!
We are totally booked.
Welcome back to the Booked on Rock podcast. Subscribe and give the podcast a 5-star review wherever you listen. The website, bookedonrock.com. We've got concert promoter Peter Shapiro on the podcast this week to talk about his brand new book, The Music Never Stops, What Putting on 10,000 Shows Has Taught Me About Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Magic. It's out now from Hachette Books. Peter is the best known and most influential concert promoter of his generation. He owned the legendary Wetlands in Tribeca and has gone on to even bigger venues, including Brooklyn Bowl in New York City, Las Vegas, Philadelphia, and Nashville, the Capitol Theater in Portchester. He produced U2 3D, and he promoted the Grateful Dead's 50th anniversary Fare Thee Well shows, featuring the core 4 members of the Grateful Dead, Bob Weir, Phil Lesh, Mickey Hart, and Bill Kreutzman, along with Trey Anastasio of Phish. But there's so much more. In The Music Never Stops, Peter, with the help of author Dean Budnick, shares the inside story of how he became a powerhouse in the music industry, an island in an increasingly consolidated landscape of venues, ticketing, and touring, through the lens of 50 iconic concerts. Along the way, readers gain insight into what it was like to work with some of the most celebrated bands in modern music, including not just the Grateful Dead and U2, but also Bob Dylan, Phish, Dave Matthews Band, Al Green, Miss Lauryn Hill, Jason Isbell, Preservation Hall Jazz Band, The Roots, Robert Plant, Leonard Cohen, and many more. Featuring never-before published backstage anecdotes, insights, and photographs of the biggest bands in the business and the concerts that later became legendary, The Music Never Stops is a perfect guide for anyone who wants to understand the modern live music industry. Peter was heading to Madison Square Garden to see Rage Against the Machine on the night I talked to him, so he had to cut out a little early. But I appreciate him making the time to hang for a bit and talk about his book and his amazing career. To hear a playlist of the artists and music discussed in this episode, you know what to do. Head over to the show notes page. Peter, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Hey, good to hear, brother. Booked on Rock.
Booked on Rock it is. And you write in your book, while growing up, you said, I never had dreams of becoming a concert promoter. Before I ask you about what led you to become a promoter, can you talk about where you grew up and what, if any, specific career dream you had in mind before your career as a promoter began?
You know the truth, I just had one of those big moments at a show that changed my life. I was not planning to be a concert promoter. It's not really something I wonder, actually. We have to ask some of my friends. I've asked rock promoters, when you were young, did you want to be a rock promoter or did it just happen? For me, I was into film and video, and I was a film student at Northwestern after growing up in New York City. And I mean, growing up in high school, I went to some Lollapalooza my senior year. There was a phase of like Jane's Addiction. But when I got to college, I got a little bit into the Grateful Dead and Phish and that world, playing Frisbee and stuff. And I started going to shows pretty much right when I got to college. Biddy Mulligan's, the classic place in Evanston, the Vic Theater in Chicago, and went to a show at Rosemont Horizon in March of '93, a Dead show. Changed my life, really, in the parking lot that night, seeing all the Deadheads, you know, with drum circles and getting back on the school bus. They weren't going back to Northwestern. And I went back to college, went to the library the next morning. It was like, wow, I've never seen anything like that. I'm going to do research on what films, because I was a film student, had been done on this Dead scene. And I went on the road 2 months later in a van with a camera and made a film. And that led me really on my path to being here with you, Eric, right now.
Like you say in the book, it's not your conventional way of moving up the ladder slowly. It was just a comment from a fill-in bassist for a Grateful Dead cover band that would become a pivotal moment for you. Can you take us back to that moment, February of 1996, I believe, and how you became the owner of the legendary Wetlands?
Yeah. Well, from that film, the owner of Wetlands, I made this film. I went on the road and spent time, couldn't get the band to be in it. I got all the Deadheads in it. And the whole scene, we went on tour with the traveling circus. And the owner of Wetlands saw the film, a great rock club in New York, downtown in Tribeca. And he was looking after 7 years of 7 night a week rock and roll, that'll fry you out. He got fried. He was moving to Vermont, wanted to find someone to pass the club on, keep going, take the torch or the baton, and continue the mission of the club, which was great live music, open to various genres of music, being a home for that, doing daytime ska and punk shows, and hosting an environmental social justice center. I mean, that's the big headline at the end, and funding that with a certain amount of money, $100,000 a year. And I raised my hand, and he had seen this film of me traveling on Dead Tour and interview. I did get Ken Kesey, Tim Leary, Wavy Gravy, a lot of the characters around the Dead to be in it, and all the Deadheads, but I couldn't get the band. So Larry Block, who started Wetlands, this famous New York City rock club, saw the film, and I was showing the film after Garcia died in August 95 and 96. I was going around to colleges showing the film, and I was doing it with a Dead cover band, and Marty from the band Tiberius one night said, "Hey, Pete, you should take over Wetlands." I was like, wow, whoa, that's a big idea. I'd only been to one Merle Saunders show there. This is in early 96. Jerry had just died in August 95. What I did know from being on Dead Tour was that I did not think that scene would just end. Maybe the Grateful Dead would end, but people wanting to go to shows, to dance, to twirl and spin and float around, whatever they do, that wouldn't end. People still need that. And they might splinter off some more bluegrass ones into the string cheese world or southern rock. Maybe a Government Mule, Black Crowes, jazzy kind of Dead would go into Mineski, Martin and Woods, and John Schofields, and electronics, and the Disco Biscuits, and Sound Tribes, and the Americana, the Mo, and prog rock, Deadheads, Humphreys McGee. That's the whole jam band world. So, in a way, Garcia's passing led to the birth of the jam band kind of scene. Phish was always around, and Blues Traveler had been around. Sorry, at that point, Dave Matthews, but ironically, Garcia's passing, because everyone just went to Dead shows, and they were the number one concert touring band in the world when he died in 95. Number one. But that need to that exploratory music, what it does to you, improvisational music. Even though Jerry died, people's need for that kind of music doesn't end. So I was like, I think that's going to keep going. I think there'll be new bands. And that's why I raised my hand. I brought it there together, the story in the back, right? That's why I raised my hand to take over Wetland.
Yeah, and also you talk about the music, but it's also the environment, the atmosphere. That's a big part of your approach when you took over Wetlands, and the experience, not just in the actual venue, but in the parking lot, just the people you meet along the way. That was important to you.
It's part of that whole experience. I mean, it is a big part of that whole thing. That whole thing works off the whole experience of going to a show, being with people, sharing it. It's more important for that world than just going to, I'm going to Rage Against the Machine, and I listen, the whole crowd will be going nuts and going friends. The live experience. When you remember what show you went to, you remember going with your friend. When you think back to the show, I think that's part of what you remember. Going, hanging out before, and clearly the show. And the Dead show maybe was just a little more of that, because maybe at certain points during the show you need to hold on to your friends to make sure you don't fall over. It's intense. You need your friends to rely on.
And we're around the same age. I was born in 72. I think you're right around the same age. And you went to a lot.
I'm born in 72.
Oh, okay. Same year, yeah. And you went to a lot of Dead shows, didn't you? Before you got into the business as a promoter?
Yeah, of course, bro. It
all
starts from a fan. That's it all starts from being a fan.
One of my all-time favorite bands is Blues Traveler, and you mentioned them. And there's a great story in the book around the time you just took over Wetlands, and you're ushered into the band room by the late great Bobby Sheehan. He offered up some encouragement on this night that you've never forgotten.
Yeah, so they were playing. This is back in probably 98. I don't remember the year. High Plains Drifter. They were playing a side project, but it ended up being Blues Traveler, and they opened after they played, or at set break. The green room opened the door, and Bobby Sheehan from Blues Traveler, bass player, they told the manager he couldn't come in, and all the team, but he's like, "You new guy, a new guy." I was the new owner of Wetlands. You come here, come on in. So he brought me in, and for like the next 30 minutes at set break, I hung out with the 4 Blues Traveler guys, just me and the kid, the new owner. And they indoctrinated me and broke me in, and hung out. We drank beers, we did whatever. But it was a special feeling. I was a kid who grew up a Blues Traveler fan. Here I was. They told Dave Fry, the manager, "Yo, bro, you can't, no management, no one's coming in. Shapiro, new guy, you can come in."
That's when you knew. You knew you were in.
Yeah.
I always tell my older brothers, a huge Dead fan, I said, you got to see Blues Traveler. Next time they come around, you got to go see him. And he wants to do it. They're such a great live band to this day. Bobby Sheehan, those years were amazing. Bobby was the big Dead fan, right?
Yeah, he was. I didn't know him that well, bro. Remember, he just did. I think he was the head, but John too a bit. But Bobby was living in New Orleans. And listen, I'm working on something interesting with Blues Traveler tied to the Dead, but
Nice.
I don't think they were known for their deadness as much.
Right.
But they took that Dead spirit into new plays, kind of with Popper's harmonica and just a little more harder rock vibes. But Blues Traveler is one of really the key bands that helped make Wetlands what it was. They'd play these shows till like 3, 4 in the morning. Everyone's sweating, like dancing and going nuts. And
I think of Wetlands. I think of Blues Traveler and Spin Doctors.
Yeah, Spin Docs, Joan Osborne, Blues Traveler, Triple Bills, 3 in the morning, air conditioning not really working, sweating. They called it sweat glands. Sweat glands. And John Popper, if anyone listening, you could probably Google John Popper, Sweat Glands. He did a song with the band Frog Wings with the great Butch Trucks, drummer of the Allman Brothers. O'Teal Burbridge was in that. Derek Trucks. They played Wetlands, and Popper did a Sweat Glands song.
That's cool. Yeah, they played right near us here in New Haven, Connecticut. That's the one that was recorded for the live album, Toad's Place.
Right. Toad's good. I mean, dude, another legendary place.
Hell yeah. And I think I have
a lot of these clubs, they're important places to this country. We need these kind of places there, and they're fading away.
I tried getting the guys, they just put out a book. The owner and I think a local reporter put out a book on Toad's Place. I'd love to have him on. Reached out to him, didn't hear back, but that's legendary.
You got the Wetlands guy, bro.
We got him right. And I do have you to thank for putting the Spin Doctors back together. I should thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah, did you hear that in the book? Or
yeah. Well, I knew that before because I'm such a fan, and reading interviews with Chris Barron, he would talk about how it came about because they were apart for close to a decade, I think.
Yeah, starting when we were closing Wetlands in 2001, it was like, what can we do special? And that was one of the things.
Chapter 15, titled The Night Before. We all remember where we were on 9/11. Wetlands was less than a mile away from the Trade Center, and you put on a show the night before, and it was, as you write, an electrifying night. And you would find out later that there were people in attendance that night at Wetlands that would have been in the World Trade Center the next day.
Yeah, we went till about 4 or 5 in the morning at Wetlands. DJ Logic, Stanley Jordan, Warren Haynes, Mike Gordon from Phish. And because we went so late, people stayed late. And a couple of them wrote us a few days later saying, I slept late that day on the morning of the 11th and never made it to work, and I worked at the Trade Center. So they credited that staying, you never know what happens when you go to a show. Don't leave. Maybe there's some good karma in the air that staying longer will have some kind of benefit. These 2 people slept late and didn't go to their work at the World Trade Center in the morning of September 11th.
Man. As a promoter, all the little details are important. Everything is everything, as you write. Irving Azoff once said to you, before his client Don Henley played the Capitol Theater, quote, "Don't fuck up the salmon." What was that about?
Just the catering's important. Having the food be good is important. And Don Henley likes his salmon. Get the salmon right. You know, all the details matter. So when all the details matter, losing one of the details could screw up the whole thing.
Any funny demands, crazy demands that you got over the years?
I mean, don't fuck up the salmon, bro. You know, I've done it all. You know, we've had to get things we can't talk about and other things. But listen, you need the sound to be right, the lights to be right, the experience coming into the show through security to be right, the box office experience to be right, the bar to be right. And if one of those things goes off, so that's what we try to do. It's like all the details matter. Try to make them all go right. It's a domino either way. When things are going right, it's a lot easier. So it's easy. It's, you know, it's easy when it's easy, and it's really hard when it's hard.
And he got to work with U2, the 2008 3D concert film featuring U2 performing during the Vertigo tour in 2006. What a massive production. Shot at 7 concerts right across Latin America, 2 in Australia, 18 3D cameras. And
you got it down, bro.
Yeah, I did my homework.
Yeah, that was a monster. I was playing with new technology, too.
Well, I was going to say, initially you were shooting NFL games. You hoped to create a 3D experience for fans at home, but that fizzled out?
Yeah, we were doing NFL first, led to U2. It was pretty cool. We got to shoot U2 in South America. When we were like, let's do this. Bono was like, let's do it in Argentina. Because the audiences in Buenos Aires are the most energetic, the most alive, the most fun. If anyone listening seen a show there, then they know. And if you have not seen a show at River Plate Stadium in Buenos Aires, Argentina, then you don't know, and you need to go find out one day, because the energy level at that show with that audience is at just a higher level. People have been waiting for the show for years. The Argentinian energy is just, honestly, for better or worse, a higher level than other audiences.
I believe AC/DC shot a live video there as well, if I remember correctly.
Oh, at River Plate Stadium?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Police did. I think you're right. It's like 80,000. It's kind of crazy. It's just an old school giant stadium, maybe more than right in the heart of Buenos Aires. Pretty cool.
How was it working with the guys, Bono? What do you remember most about that experience?
You know, they're just the best at what they do. You know, the way they present the live show and integrate visual components and other components to to the music. I believe, and I've seen a lot of shows, that they're just able to do it at a higher level. They're just at a higher level of integrating that new technology, video, all those things. They're just amazing. So I love working with them. It was a great honor, and trying to do more if I can, you know. And so if anyone's seen them, it's ironic, you know, they really are, I think, the greatest, or one of, or we'll go with the best live band I've seen on the planet.
The Brooklyn Bowl. Ron Delsener, who was a New York concert promoter, thought you were going crazy. A bowling alley next to the stage? He said no one would play there. After you launched it in 2009, went on to become the busiest venue in Manhattan, one of the 10 most active clubs in the world. Can you talk about how this all started, what the idea was in the beginning?
We really tried to optimize it. My partner Charlie and I were like, when you're in the bowling alley, you're in the best spot to watch the show. I own this club, Wetlands, and it was about how do you build a live music venue a little different? Because New York already had great venues, Bowery Ballroom, Irving Plaza, you know, more standard box, bar facing the stage. And every view's great and all that. And really wanted to try to think through and try and reinvent and push the idea of how you do a music venue and bring that to a new place, to the next level. Yeah.
And Questlove was behind it. He believed in it.
Yeah, he at first it was a little tough to get him. You know, it was a little tough to get everyone to believe in this venue that also had a bowling alley in it. But at the end of the day, when you turn up the PA system, it's not even close. But we just got to get people to try something. You know, if they don't know it, they'll be scared of it. And like Brooklyn Bowl, we learned the best way to really tell people about it, get someone to play there, was to show it to them, for them to visit, for them to see it. when you talk to someone about something, it's just hard to come to life. When you see it, you know, it really pops. And so I got Questlove, luckily from my relationship with him at Wetlands. I was like, bro, please come try this thing. And what we learned there, like the layout of the bowl with the bowling, the screens, and he's a huge Soul Train fan, so we ran Soul Train videos. And it would DJ classic hip hop, soul, funk, you know, with the old Soul Train videos spinning. It's really quite cool. It was called Bowl Train, like Soul Train, Bowl Train. And we did like 300 bowl trains every Thursday night, 11:30 for like 7 years. We did these bowl trains, and it was great. He doesn't do them anymore. Now he's in the cat, you know, but for 7 years, every Thursday. And then we would go to bands and be like, you want to play at 9:00? And Questlove will spin after you. And we utilize these screens and the layout in the bowl, and the screens are running bowl Soul Train videos. He's spinning classic Stevie Wonder, you know, hip hop, Stevie Wonder, or rock, or Zeppelin, just Tribe Called Quest, just amazing soul music and all types of music. He's the most talented DJ of selecting. He doesn't like do live mixing over each other, but his selection is time that he goes from song to song to song, and his selection and choice of the songs and when to play them, he is the most talented at doing that, I think, of anyone I've seen.
And how long before you start seeing results? Was it instant? Did it take some time?
Bowl in New York came more instant. You know, the other ones, when you open it in town, takes time. You know, it's not easy. Opening a new venue, you can hear it in my voice. I've done a lot of shows. You know, opening new in a new market, it's always hard. If anyone out there is trying to do it with a friend. Try to partner with people. Try to get someone who's got an email list. All your friends with socials. You got to hit the promo hard. You know, and never gets easy. You know, it gets maybe a little easier, but it's a tough game to open a live music venue. You got to build your email list, build the socials. You got to have excellence, so people want to come back, and the sound, like all the parts that we talked before. You know, it's all got to be done right.
It's a risk. There is always going to be the risk, right?
There's a lot of risk in live music. You know, it's just, you can win and make 12, or when you lose 100. So it favors scale. If you have companies, that's why you have Live Nation AG, they can do lots of shows. But if you're just doing a few shows, it's much harder because you can lose a lot more than you can win. It's one reason why you want to own a venue, because promoting is particularly hard. You got to rent the venue, pay the band. You know, it's a tough game, live music. It's why Live Nation wins on sponsorships and stuff. And AG owns the land. So there's a lot of risk.
Do you learn more from failure, or do you learn more from success?
You learn more from the failure side, I think. But hopefully you can use that to get the success. You know, one of the things in the book is about no's leading to yeses. You know, you put a lot of things out there. You've done this, try to get people on, you know. Sometimes a no, there's good no's that you're like, oh, I think I'm going to get this turned to a yes one day.
I always call it, I go fishing.
Yeah, there's not a lot to lose from fishing. You know, you put the line in the water. I mean, I guess if the fish comes and like eats the line and pulls your fish rod down into the water, but really, it's worth fishing. You don't know if you can. Especially when you're young, like I did it while I was in college, if you can, or high school, wherever you are, or any point, you know, always do a little fishing.
But it's also good. You build good relationship with people. They're going to reach out to you and they're going to help you. And in turn, you help them. And I noticed that it's a snowball effect. And then it becomes less of me going to them and more of them now trusting that they know what I'm doing here is legit. So they'll come to me and say, hey, we got somebody for you. And that's cool. That's when you start to feel like, okay, we're getting somewhere here.
Yes, totally.
Capitol Theater, Port Chester, New York, legendary venue, first opened in 1926. You knew you could reach people far and wide, including Connecticut, and I was there like 3-4 years ago to see Big Head Todd and the Monsters. My older brother loves that band. I went with my brother and his wife, who've been there many times, and I believe this is the venue, Peter, if I'm not mistaken, Janis Joplin first performed Mercedes-Benz, right? Didn't she write it down the street at a restaurant somewhere and she wrote it on a napkin?
That's exactly what happened, bro. Yeah, she wrote it there backstage at the Cap.
I love that. Love that story. So you reopened it in 2011. Can you talk about your mindset going in as far as how you want it to look, how much of the historic aspect of the venue you want to keep, and then how Jerry Garcia comes into play?
Well, it's Jerry's favorite venue. And they played there 18 times in a year. In 1970, 71, 11 months, played 18 times, which anyone who knows touring and bands, that's a lot. But it had gone away by the time I showed up 10, 12 years ago. In terms of doing shows, they were doing weddings and bar mitzvahs. And I'm just a guy, want to bring the rock. So my idea was to bring it back. And the people there, Marvin Ravikoff, owned us. Peter, why do you want to do the concerts? They're so hard. I don't understand. Why we do the Stein bar mitzvah. I have Jim, one employee, and when we get the bar mitzvah, we hire 50 caterers. It was just there's easier models. Rock and roll, if you're out there and you want to make the most money, don't go into the live concert business. Just open a bar, simple. But if you want magic and fun, then that's where the live music comes in. And the Cap, I wanted to bring it back. The Cap, and done 1,000 shows since we reopened in 2012. And people up there love it. We draw people from all over the East Coast. It's a cool spot. I think the location's even better than like the Beacon in New York City because we get we're 30 miles north. And we get all that Massachusetts and Connecticut, and it's right off 995. So people from all we get a lot of people. And I knew that people would want to travel. I used to love to travel. I still do. Road trips are fun with rock and roll. Going with friends. We talked about that before. The friends and the road trip. I think that's a big part of this when you go to a show, that whole experience. I'm actually going to a show tonight. I'm going to see Rage Against the Machine. Run the Jewels are opening. That's why I got to go in a minute or two. But part of that for me will be going with my friend. I'm going with my friend Ryan, the singer of the band Guster. And we'll meet before. And I think that's in this age where we're on these screens all day long. The phones. It's important to still do the human interaction thing, the touch, and go to a show. I mean, the screens are fun. You can watch a stream of a show, hear it good. You can turn on your Bluetooth. It'll sound great. But it's not like going to a show with a friend and the pregame, the during, the postgame. It's a great way to live life.
The Fare Thee Well shows to celebrate 50 years of the Grateful Dead. This started with a pitch you made 10 years earlier for a 40th anniversary celebration. That never happened. No one was in the right frame of mind to do it, but you're back in pursuit in 2015, and we get a series of shows from June 27th to July 5th at Santa Clara's Levi's Stadium in Chicago, Soldier Field. And this marked the first time Bob Weir, Phil Lesh, Bill Kreutzman, and Mickey Hart performed together since the Dead's 2009 tour. Was Phil Lesh the first choice to join the band for those shows? I mean, did you start with him and go from there, or did you reach out to the other guys first and they said, you got to talk to Phil, he's got to be in on this? How did that all play out?
It all was simultaneous. I was going all, but the details of that are in the book, and whatever's not, I'm not supposed to talk about probably. So there you go. I don't remember what it's funny. I did this book and I don't even remember exactly what I put in, but when you try to put something like that together, you got to move on all cylinders. It's all same times, and so simultaneously it was talking to all of the guys. You adjust and then try more, and then adjust and try more, again. And I actually tried to get their 40th anniversary and couldn't get that. That's one of those no's that can lead to a yes. But thank God I thought of and made the attempt to go back again for 50, and yeah, just kind of reached out in all directions,
and it happened. I don't think you could have any regrets about that whole experience. I mean, it came off beautifully. I got the chance to see it from home, didn't get the chance to go, but really it reached so many people
too, right? It was still good that way too.
Loved it. Yeah, man, it was so cool. It really felt, I mean, it's the next best thing to being there. I mean, if you can't be there, then that's it right there. And it was live because you know it's happening live. So you feel like you're there.
Yeah, that stuff. I mean, it's not quite there, but it sure is pretty cool. And the streaming, we've been doing a lot of that. Helped us get through COVID.
Did you take a hit during COVID, a really big hit? I mean, some places just weren't able to come out of it.
Yeah, I took a big hit, but the government helped us and we made it through, and we're about back now. I mean, think about it, it's 2.5 years, pretty crazy. Some of the streaming stuff really helped us get through it. You know, when you couldn't do shows, we actually did shows with no audience. The screen thing, listen, it's better than no show. Nothing will replicate the live thing. Back to the friends, you know, and going with a friend to a show, which I'm psyched I'm about to do, going to Madison Square Garden. I love going to shows that are not my own venues, not my own show. It's just fun. You can relax a little more. I love my own shows too. But there's nothing, it's one of my favorite things to do. I'm going to Rage tonight. I'm going to like Gaga on Thursday. I'm going to Steely Dan I'm putting on Wednesday. Back to Steely on Friday. So yeah, I go to a lot of shows, dude.
The final question for you, Peter, is the Rainbow real? I'll quickly set it up. It's the first show of Fare Thee Well, June 27th, 2015 at Levi's Stadium, Santa Clara. Last song of the first set, big beautiful rainbow appears in the sky, epic moment, and it's literally while the rainbow is in effect, you get a text from a friend who writes for Billboard asking you how you made the rainbow happen. Your response led to what's happened since. Some believe it was real. Some believe it wasn't real. The floor is yours, Peter. Was it real?
Jerry made it. Jerry Garcia. There you go, brother. I don't know. You know, I've always said it's real, but then someone just told me today that I realize that I made it. So maybe I made it. Maybe it was real. You know, that's the rainbow. It's got magic in it. You don't know. And we need magic, especially with all the crazy going on in the world today. So when that rainbow hit and just crossed the stadium perfect, you know, I'm still looking. And sometimes when it's almost raining, it's moist in the air, or there's some droplets and the sun comes, you know, that moment where you're like, oh, wow, we might get a rainbow. That happened yesterday. I love that moment. You're just looking around, but now people point to me and they'll be like, is the rainbow coming? And it happened for a while where I went, seemed to be a preponderance of a bunch of rainbows would happen. But, you know, I'm not sure if I made it or not myself.
I love that answer, Peter. I love it. And it's on the cover of your book, The Music Never Stops, What Putting on 10,000 Shows Has Taught Me About Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Magic. It's out now, and it's available wherever books are sold. Any websites you want to let people know about, or social media?
Shed Books. Well, they're the publisher. I own Relics Magazine, and I don't own my own socials, but Relics or Brooklyn Bowl, Capitol Theater, all this stuff. But it's called The Music Never Stops. And you can just go online. There'll be stuff about it.
Peter, this was awesome, man. Have a great time at the show tonight.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks, Eric.
And thanks as always to you for being a loyal listener. Looking forward to having you back again for the next brand new episode of Booked on Rock.
That's it. It's in the books.